Time inside a photograph, why nude art feels outside reality. Have you ever noticed that some photographs seem to exist outside of time? They do not feel tied to a particular day, year, or moment. They seem suspended between the past and the future, existing in a quiet space that feels separate from everyday life. This effect is especially powerful in fine art photography and figure studies, where the image often feels less like a record of reality and more like a meditation on presence itself. Unlike cinema, which unfolds through movement, photography captures a single instant. A fraction of a second is isolated from the endless flow of time and preserved forever. In everyday photography, this may simply document an event or a memory. But in artistic photography, the frozen moment becomes something deeper. The photograph is no longer just evidence that something happened. It becomes an invitation to pause and experience a moment that never changes. This relationship with time has fascinated artists for generations. Painters spent centuries attempting to create timelessness on canvas. Through composition, lighting, and symbolism, they tried to free their subjects from the distractions of ordinary life. Fine art photography inherited this same goal, using the camera not merely as a recording device but as a tool for creating timeless visual experiences. When we look at a figure study or a carefully composed portrait, we are often unable to determine exactly when it was created. The image may contain no obvious signs of modern life. There may be no technology, no specific location, and no narrative clues to anchor it in a particular era. The result is a feeling of timelessness. The subject seems to exist in a space where clocks no longer matter. This timeless quality changes the way we experience the human form. In everyday life, we constantly associate people with age, occupation, social identity, and personal history. We place them within a timeline. But when these references disappear, something remarkable happens. The viewer begins to see the figure less as a specific individual and more as a universal human presence. The photograph becomes less about biography and more about existence. The image asks fewer questions about who the subject is and more questions about what it means to be human. The body becomes a symbol of shared experience rather than individual identity. Lighting plays an important role in creating this feeling. Soft light removes distractions and simplifies visual information. Shadows conceal details that might tie the image to a specific reality. The balance between light and darkness creates an atmosphere that feels dreamlike. It becomes difficult to determine whether we are observing a real moment, a memory, or something imagined entirely. This is one reason why artistic figure photography often feels contemplative. The image does not rush. It does not demand immediate action. Instead, it invites stillness. The viewer slows down. Attention becomes focused. For a brief moment, the constant noise of daily life fades into the background. There is also a fascinating psychological reason for this experience. Human beings live within time every day. We think about schedules, deadlines, aging, and change. Our lives are structured by movement from one moment to the next. Yet photographs interrupt this flow. They create a reality where nothing changes. The subject never grows older. The light never shifts. The gesture remains exactly as it was captured. This permanence creates a unique emotional effect. The image feels stable in a world that is constantly moving. It becomes a small sanctuary from the pressures of time itself. Perhaps this is why people often return to certain photographs again and again. The image offers a moment of stillness that life rarely provides. Painters understood this long before cameras existed. Classical figure paintings often portray moments that seem frozen beyond ordinary reality. A gesture, a glance, or a posture remains suspended indefinitely. Photography achieves a similar result, but through a different process. Instead of constructing timelessness through brushstrokes, the camera captures it through selection. Out of countless moving moments, one is chosen and preserved forever. Yet the paradox of photography is that the image represents both life and absence. We know the subject once stood before the camera. We know the moment truly existed. But we also know that moment has already passed. What remains is only the visual echo of an instant that can never return. This tension between presence and absence gives photography much of its emotional power. In figure studies, this tension becomes even more profound. The human form reminds us of life, movement, and experience. Yet within the photograph, all motion has stopped. The body appears calm, silent, and timeless. The result is an image that feels both alive and distant at the same time. Perhaps this is why artistic photography often feels different from ordinary snapshots. It is not merely documenting reality. It is transforming reality into contemplation. The photograph becomes a place where time slows down, where attention deepens, and where the viewer can encounter the human form without the usual distractions of everyday life. Ultimately, the power of photography lies in its ability to stop time while still preserving life. A single frame can hold emotion, memory, mystery, and presence all at once. It allows us to step outside the rushing current of ordinary existence and enter a quieter space. And in that silent space, suspended between what was and what will be, the photograph reminds us that some moments become timeless not because they last forever, but because they invite us to see more deeply.